Welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Apologetics. We are going to continue our series today looking at the Word of God. And I want to ask the most basic question, quite simply, what is the Bible? What is this book that we hold in our hands, this book that we bring to church, that we read, that Christians have treasured above all other books? It's been rightly said that all the adjectives and all the superlatives in all the languages of all the earth fall short of the necessary adequacies to describe this book of all books. A wonderful quote there by one of my favourite commentators, but it really gets us to the point of how amazing the Bible is. And as we go through this series, I'm hoping that you'll get excited about the Word of God and it'll cause you to want to study these things deeper. But let's start with the very basic facts. What is the Bible? It's not just one book. The Bible, you see, is actually a collection of 66 different books that we have just combined between these covers. It includes things like historical narrative. We call these the different genres: narrative, legal codes, biography, personal correspondence, music, psalms, poetry, wisdom literature. Again, so many different types, which is one of the reasons why studying the Word of God is such an enriching and fulfilling experience. But not only do we have 66 different books, these books were written by 40 different authors, right through from kings and military leaders, all the way to tax collectors and fishermen, and on and on. So many different authors from every class of society, which is again another reason why the Bible speaks to so many people in so many different ways today. So we have 66 books by over 40 different authors. Now, it's not only that, it was written over a period of 1,500 years. 1,500 years. The composition of the Bible is just unrivaled in world history. It's absolutely unique and it's amazing. 1,500 years, written over 3 different continents: Africa, Asia and Europe, and in 3 different languages: Hebrew, Aramaic a little bit, and then Greek for the New Testament. Now, we divide the books typically into Old Testament and New Testament. These are labels that are helpful, although some people don't like them. We'll continue to use them because that's really what is the standard. In the Old Testament, we have 39 books, and these would have been collected by the Jewish community at the time. They would have been written on scrolls, like this one here. This is a reproduction of the Dead Sea Scrolls found in Israel by a Bedouin shepherd boy. We'll do a whole episode on that. That is an amazing story in and of itself. But then we get to the first century, the time of the apostles, and they would have stopped writing on vellum and they would have gone over to writing on papyri. It was much cheaper and easier to get hold of. They would have collected their writings, the letters, and wrapped them in leather, probably. This is a reproduction from the Gnostic Gospels that were found at Nag Hammadi. Now, we don't agree with the Gnostic Gospels. We will probably have an episode on them too, but it does give us a glimpse into how they compiled their papyri sheets at the time, very much like an early form of a book. And then towards the end of the 2nd century, this would have given way to the larger style of codexes where they put the books, and that leads to what we call a book today, the early form of the Bible. Now, the Bible, as you see here, was written in all these different ways, but we can have confidence that what we have today is the same as what was written down. We'll explore that more as we go. One other thing that's worth noting is we know the Word of God today by chapter and verse. We have, yes, the book titles, but we also talk about the chapters. We have the John 3:16, don't we? Now, they didn't originally have that. They are modern additions. The chapter divisions in the 13th century and the verses in the 16th century. We'll talk about that as we go through the history of the Bible. Now, all of these things together are just an amazing, exciting story to do with the Word of God. We're going to study it from the aspect of history, from the aspect of divine revelation, and all the different questions that come up with these things. It's going to be an exciting journey, and I hope that you'll join me for it. Let me just end this short episode by reading a quote from one of my favourite Bible scholars and linguists, A.T. Pierson. It goes like this: "The Bible is the greatest traveller in the world. It penetrates into every country, civilised and uncivilised. It is seen in the royal palace and in the humble cottage. It is the friend of emperors and beggars. It is read by the light of the dim candle amid Arctic snows. It is read under the glare of the equatorial sun. It is read in the city and country, amid the crowds and in solitude. Wherever the message is received, it frees the mind from bondage and fills the heart with gladness. That's A.T. Pearson, the Bible scholar and Greek expert. As we go through this course, we're going to look at the Word of God as revelation. We're going to look at the uniqueness of the Word of God, the teachings of the Word of God, and hopefully by the end we're going to see why this book is unrivaled in world history. I hope you'll come along with me for the journey. Thanks for listening.